David wiped down the dental chair for the third time that afternoon, even though it was already clean. His hands needed something to do. Behind him, Trill buzzed around the office, her forearms organizing instruments with irritating efficiency. "You promised," Trill said. Her compound eyes reflected the overhead lights as she turned to face him. "Tonight, 7 o'clock, the Garden Terrace restaurant." "I know what I said." David tossed the cloth into the sanitizer bin. "Doesn't mean I have to be happy about it. Nobody asked you to be happy. Just present." Trill's antennae twitched in what he had learned was amusement. 2 years, David. 2 years since Rachel died. Lucy needs to see you living again." David felt the familiar tightness in his chest at his wife's name. Rachel would have laughed at all this. She had always been the brave one, the one who pushed him to try new things. Moving to New Harmony Station had been her idea. Raising their daughter among dozens of alien species had been her dream. Now he was alone with that dream, and it felt too big for him. "Fine. 7 o'clock. But if this person is weird, I'm leaving after the appetizer. Deal." Trill's mandibles clicked together in her species' version of a smile. "Oh, and David? Keep an open mind." That should have been his first warning. At home, Lucy bounced around their small apartment like a rubber ball. She had been excited all week about this dinner, which made David feel even worse about his own dread. "What do you think she looks like, Dad?" Lucy asked, hanging upside down from the couch. Her dark hair touched the floor. "Maybe she has blue skin. Or 6 fingers. Or maybe she glows in the dark. She's probably just a regular human, sweetheart." David pulled his nicest shirt from the closet. It still smelled like the lavender detergent Rachel used to buy. "Most humans on the station date other humans." "Boring," Lucy declared. She flipped right side up, her face serious. "You should marry an alien. Then I could learn about their whole planet and everything. I'm not marrying anyone. It's just dinner." "That's what you think." Lucy grinned, showing the gap where her front tooth used to be. "But I have a good feeling about tonight." David wished he shared her optimism. He kissed the top of her head and left her with Mrs. Patterson, the elderly human woman who lived 3 doors down. As he walked through the station corridors toward the restaurant, he practiced excuses in his head. Food poisoning. Emergency at the clinic. Sudden amnesia about what day it was. The Garden Terrace sat on the outer ring of the station, with wide windows showing the stars beyond. It was beautiful and romantic, which made David uncomfortable. He arrived exactly on time and gave his name to the host, a tall being with purple skin and no visible mouth. "Your companion is already here," the host said through a translator device. "Table 17. David wound through the restaurant, past couples of various species holding hands or tentacles or whatever they had. Table 17 sat near a window. He saw her back first. Broad shoulders, dark red scales that caught the light, wings folded neatly against her spine. His feet stopped moving. The woman turned, and David found himself staring at a face that belonged in a combat manual, not a restaurant. Strong features, amber eyes with vertical pupils, and 2 small horns curving back from her temples. She wore a military dress uniform, medals gleaming on her chest, a Dravixen. Trill had set him up with a Dravixen. David Chen? Her voice was deep with a slight hiss on the consonants. "That's me." He forced himself to move forward to sit down. His chair felt very small suddenly. "I am Commander Sareth Veer, 4th Fleet Station Defense." She did not offer her hand. Dravixen did not shake hands. "I assume you are as surprised by this arrangement as I am." "You could say that." David picked up the menu, more for something to hold than to read. His mind was racing. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Dravixen. Warriors, soldiers. Their ships were the first ones sent when the swarm attacked. They were famous for being fierce, direct, and absolutely terrifying in battle, and he was supposed to make small talk with one over dinner. "Your colleague Trill arranged this through the Cultural Integration Program," Sareth continued. "My commanding officer strongly suggested I participate. Something about improving relations with civilian populations." She said it like she was reporting mission parameters. "Right. Integration. Great." David studied the menu. Everything looked unappealing. "So, you're in the military?" "For 20 years, yes, that's a long time. It is the average career length for my species." Silence fell over the table like a thick blanket. David looked at Sareth. She looked back at him. Her amber eyes did not blink as often as human eyes. It was unsettling. A server arrived, another species David did not recognize. They ordered drinks. More silence. Do you enjoy dentistry? Zareth asked finally. It's fine. I help people fix problems. David realized he was sweating. Do you enjoy the military? It is necessary work. Another silence. David excused himself to the bathroom after their drinks arrived. He stood at the sink, splashing water on his face. This was impossible. He had nothing in common with this woman. She was a trained killer. He pulled teeth for a living. She had scales and wings. He had soft human skin that probably looked pathetic to her. He could leave. The bathroom had an exit that led to a side corridor. He had his keys in his pocket. He could be home in 10 minutes, tell Trill it did not work out, and never think about this night again. David stared at his reflection. He thought about Lucy asking questions, her excitement about him making a new friend. He thought about the gap-toothed smile and her saying, I have a good feeling about tonight. He dried his hands and walked back to the table, but he kept his keys in his pocket just in case. Zareth watched the human male return from the bathroom. His pupils were dilated. His breathing pattern had changed. Small beads of moisture dotted his forehead despite the comfortable temperature. Every signal pointed to the same conclusion. He had considered fleeing. She found it more amusing than offensive. You were going to leave, she said as he sat down. No point in pretending otherwise. Her species did not waste time on polite lies. David's face went through several expressions very quickly. Surprise, embarrassment, then something like relief. That obvious? Your kind broadcasts emotion through every pore. It is not subtle. Zareth took a sip of her drink, a simple water. For the record, I would not have blamed you. This situation is uncomfortable for both of us. David blinked. You're uncomfortable? Extremely. I am trained to lead soldiers in combat, not make conversation over food. Zareth leaned back in her chair. Her wings shifted slightly. My commanding officer ordered me to participate in cultural integration activities. Apparently, I frightened too many civilians. A small laugh escaped David. It surprised them both. I'm sorry, he said quickly. That wasn't funny. It was a little funny. Zareth tilted her head. Why did you agree to this dinner if you find my species so disturbing? It's not. David stopped, seemed to think about it. Okay, honestly. Trill has been nagging me for months. She thinks I need to get out more. Meet people. I thought she meant another human. And instead you received a dragon. Zareth used the human term deliberately. She had heard it before, usually whispered by children or nervous merchants. I wouldn't say dragon. But you thought it. Zareth watched his face flush darker. I do not take offense. My species understands fear. We use it as a tool in warfare. But this is not warfare, David Chen. This is simply two people trapped by well-meaning friends. Something in David's shoulders relaxed. That's exactly what it is. Their food arrived. David had ordered something safe. A pasta dish that looked bland. Zareth had chosen the spiced meat, cooked rare. She noticed him trying not to stare as she ate. Travikson had sharper teeth than humans. It showed. How long have you been stationed here? David asked. He was making an effort now, she noted. Trying to be polite, 3 years. Before that, I was on patrol routes near the border zones, swarm territory. She saw him tense at the mention of the swarm. Good. Humans should be nervous about them. And you? How long on New Harmony? 5 years. My wife wanted to raise our daughter in a multi-species environment. His voice changed when he mentioned his wife, softer, sadder. She thought it was important for Lucy to see beyond Earth. Your wife is wise, was, David, pushed food around his plate. Transport accident 2 years ago. Mechanical failure. Zareth felt an unexpected pang of something. Not quite sympathy. Recognition, perhaps. I lost my family as well. Swarm attack on our colony. 17 years ago. David looked up, met her eyes directly for the first time. I'm sorry. As am I, for your loss. They held eye contact for a moment. Understanding passed between them, wordless. They were both survivors. Both alone. The rest of dinner passed more easily. They did not talk about anything important. David told her about the challenges of dentistry with alien patients. Different mouth structures, different numbers of teeth, different pain responses. Sareth told him about the frustrations of military life, the paperwork, the politics, the endless training exercises. When the check came, they split it evenly. David walked her to the station's main corridor. "Thank you for not leaving," Sareth said. "Even though you wanted to. Thank you for calling me out on it." David smiled slightly. It made him look younger. "I guess we both survived our commanding officer's orders." "Indeed. Mission accomplished." Sareth gave him a small nod. "I doubt we will see each other again, but I wish you well, David Chen." "Same to you, Commander." They went their separate directions. Sareth returned to her quarters in the military wing, filed her report on the cultural integration activity, and did not think about the human dentist again that night. David went home to relieve Mrs. Patterson. Lucy was supposed to be asleep but was clearly faking it. "How was dinner?" she asked the moment Mrs. Patterson left. "It was fine. Just fine." Lucy sat up in bed, disappointed. "What was she like?" "She was," David thought about it, "professional. A military officer. Very direct. Was she nice?" "I suppose. In her way. Did she have scales? Wings? Could she breathe fire?" Lucy's questions came rapid fire. Scales and wings, yes. No fire breathing. David tucked the blanket around her. "Now sleep. School tomorrow." "Are you going to see her again?" "No, sweetheart. It was just one dinner." Lucy frowned. "That's sad." "Why is that sad?" "Because you smiled when you talked about her just now." "You don't smile much anymore, Dad." David did not know what to say to that. He kissed her forehead and turned off the light. In her bed, Lucy pulled out her tablet. She was supposed to use it only for school, but Dad never checked. She typed carefully into the search function, Dravixen culture. Hundreds of results appeared. Pictures of their home planet, all red rocks and crystal formations. Videos of their traditional dances. Articles about their history. She read until her eyes hurt, soaking in every detail. The Dravixen raised children in community groups, not just parents. They valued honor above everything. They had complicated rituals for greeting and respect. Their wings could span 3 meters when fully extended. They were amazing, and Dad had seemed scared of them. Lucy made a decision right there in the dark. If Dad would not give the dragon lady a chance, then she would have to help him. Dad used his scared voice with new things. She had heard it when they first moved to the station, when he met their insect neighbors, when he had to try alien food, but Lucy was not scared. She never had been. She bookmarked 17 articles about Dravixen culture and finally went to sleep, dreaming of wings and honor codes and scales that shimmered in starlight. 3 days later, something happened that changed everything. The emergency call came during lunch. David was eating a sandwich at his desk when Trill burst through the door, all 4 arms gesturing wildly. "Training accident. Severe facial trauma. Dravixen soldier. He is coming here now." David dropped his sandwich. "Here, why not military medical?" "Their surgeon is off station." "You are closest. He is losing blood fast." David's professional instincts kicked in immediately. He started prepping the surgical suite while Trill gathered instruments. Years of training took over. Species did not matter when someone was hurt. Only the medicine mattered. The patient arrived on a stretcher, unconscious. 2 soldiers carried him. Behind them walked Commander Sareth Vire, her face tight with concern. David tried not to react to seeing her again. "No time for that now. What happened?" he asked, already examining the injury. The soldier's jaw was badly broken, several teeth shattered. Blood covered the scales around his mouth. "Live combat drill went wrong," Sareth said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were clenched. "The safety protocols failed. A practice round hit him at full force." "I need you to translate," David told her, already working. "Dravixen physiology is different. I need to know if I'm hurting him." Sareth moved to the other side of the table without hesitation. "Tell me what you need." For the next 2 hours, David worked with complete focus. He realigned the broken jaw, extracted the damaged teeth, sutured torn tissue. It was delicate work, made harder by the differences in bone structure. Dravixen jaws were stronger than human jaws, built for tearing meat, but that also meant they shattered differently when broken. Sareth watched his hands move with precision. She translated the soldier's mumbled responses when the anesthetic wore off slightly. She anticipated which instruments David needed before he asked. They fell into a rhythm, doctor and translator, working to save her soldier. When it was finally done, the patient was stable. sedated. His jaw was wired shut to heal, but he would recover fully. David peeled off his gloves, suddenly aware of how exhausted he was. His shirt was soaked with sweat. His hands trembled slightly from the adrenaline fading. "You saved his life," Sareth said quietly. "Just did my job." "No, you did more than your job." Sareth turned to face him fully. Then slowly she bowed her head. Her wings extended slightly and fluttered once, twice. It was a graceful motion, deliberate. David stared. "What was that?" "A gesture of deep respect. In my culture, we show it only to those who have earned it." Sareth straightened. "You worked on him like he was your own species. No hesitation, no fear. That is worthy of honor." Something warm spread through David's chest. "I'll check on him tomorrow. Make sure there's no infection." "Thank you, David Chen." Sareth gave him a small nod and left with her soldiers. Trill appeared from where she had been sterilizing equipment. "Well, that was interesting." "Don't start." "I am not starting anything. I am merely observing that she looked at you like you hung the stars." "She did not." Trill's antennae wiggled with amusement. "Whatever you say." That evening, David found himself in the station library using the public terminals. He told himself he was just being thorough. Understanding Dravixen gestures was important for patient care. That was all. He searched for information about the wing flutter and bow combination. The results made him stop breathing for a moment. It was called the honor recognition, given only to warriors who displayed exceptional courage, or to healers who saved lives selflessly, or to those who put others before themselves. It was serious. It was meaningful. David closed the terminal quickly, feeling strange. He went home to find Lucy sprawled on the floor, surrounded by papers. Drawings of aliens covered every sheet. "What's all this?" he asked. "Research project for school. We have to pick an alien species and present about their culture." Lucy held up a drawing of a Dravixen, wings spread wide. "I picked the Dravixen." "They're so cool, Dad." David's heart sank. Of course she did. Why them? Because everyone picks the easy ones, the ones that look almost human. But the Dravixen are really different, and that makes them interesting. Lucy pointed to her notes. "Did you know they raise kids in big groups? Not just mom and dad, but like the whole community helps? And they have this thing called honor codes that are super important, and they protect everyone from the swarm, even species that aren't theirs." David sat down next to her. "You learned all this in 3 days?" "I've been reading every night." Lucy looked up at him with serious eyes. "Dad, can I meet one? For my project?" "It would be really good if I could interview a real Dravixen." Every instinct told David to say no. Keep Lucy away from soldiers and warriors and beings that could break a human with one hand. But he remembered Sareth's concern for her injured soldier. The way she had worked alongside him without complaint. The respect in that gesture. "Maybe," he said carefully. "I might know someone." Lucy's face lit up. "Really?" "Really. Let me see if I can arrange something." He contacted Sareth the next day using the comm code she had left for patient updates. She answered immediately, her face appearing on the small screen. "David Chen. Is Private Keller all right?" "He's fine. Healing well." David took a breath. "Actually, I'm calling about something else. My daughter Lucy is doing a school project on Dravixen culture. She wants to interview someone. I was wondering if you might..." Sareth tilted her head, considering. "I would be honored." "When? Really? You don't mind?" "Why would I mind? Education is important. Children should learn about other species." She paused. "There is a military museum in the station. It has artifacts from my home world. I could show her there. You should come as well." "That would be perfect. Thank you." They arranged to meet on David's next day off. When he told Lucy, she actually squealed with excitement. She spent the next 2 days preparing questions, practicing her pronunciation of Dravixen words, and generally driving David crazy with her enthusiasm. The morning of the museum visit, Lucy changed her outfit 3 times before settling on her favorite dress. The blue one with stars on it. "I want to make a good impression," she explained. "You'll be fine, sweetheart." "I know. I'm not nervous." Lucy grabbed her notebook. "Are you nervous?" David realized he was. Not scared this time. Just nervous, like he was about to take a test he had not studied for. "A little," he admitted. Lucy took his hand. "It's okay, Dad. She's going to like you. She's there for you, not me." "Uh-huh, sure." Lucy grinned that gap-toothed grin. Let's go meet the dragon lady. They met Sareth at the museum entrance. She was not in uniform this time, wearing simple civilian clothes that accommodated her wings. When she saw Lucy, her stern face softened into something almost like a smile. You must be Lucy. I am, and you're Commander Sareth. Lucy stuck out her hand, fearless. Thank you for meeting us. Sareth looked at the small hand, then carefully took it in her clawed one, gentle. The honor is mine. Are you ready to learn? So ready. David watched his daughter walk into the museum beside a warrior twice her size, chattering away without a trace of fear, and Sareth listened, patient, answering every question with careful thought. Maybe Lucy had been right all along. Maybe the scary dragon lady was not scary at all. The military museum smelled like metal and old leather. Display cases lined the walls, filled with weapons and armor from a dozen different worlds. Sareth led them through the rooms with the ease of someone who had walked these halls many times. Lucy pressed her face against a case containing a ceremonial blade. What's this one? Honor blade. Every Dravixan warrior receives one when they complete their training. Sareth stopped beside the case. This one belonged to General Nethys. She led the defense of the outer colonies 50 years ago. Did she kill lots of bad guys? Lucy, David said quickly. That's not polite. Sareth waved a clawed hand. It is a fair question. Yes, General Nethys killed many enemies, but that was not why she was honored. She was honored because she saved millions of lives. Sometimes killing the bad guys is necessary to protect the good ones. Lucy nodded seriously, writing in her notebook. That makes sense. They moved through the museum. Sareth explained the history of her people, their wars with the swarm, their alliances with other species. David found himself listening as intently as his daughter. He had never bothered to learn any of this before. It was easier to keep aliens at a distance, to treat them as patients and nothing more. But Sareth's stories were not distant. She spoke of her home colony, a place of redstone and crystal towers. She described the communal raising of children, how every adult in a community had responsibility for every child. She explained the honor codes, the complex system of respect and duty that governed Dravixan society. We believe that honor is not about being strong, Sareth said. It is about knowing when to be strong and when to be gentle. A warrior who only knows violence is not honorable. They are simply dangerous. So you have to be both? Lucy asked. Strong and gentle? Exactly. Balance in all things, and Sareth looked at David when she said it. He felt the weight of that look. They reached the final room of the museum. Large windows showed the space beyond the station. Stars glittered in the darkness. In the center of the room stood a holographic display showing the current defense grid around New Harmony. Lucy walked up to it, fascinated. What are all the dots? Ships. Each color represents a different patrol route. Sareth pointed. The red ones are mine, 4th Fleet. And the gray ones? Sareth's expression darkened. Swarm detection boys. They alert us if any swarm ships approach. David moved closer. How often do they attack here? Small raids every few months. Scout ships, mostly. They test our defenses, look for weaknesses. Sareth's voice was matter-of-fact, but David heard the underlying tension. The last major attack was 10 years ago. We lost 40 people that day. Since then, we have been more prepared. Warning alarms suddenly blared through the museum. Red lights flashed. The holographic display changed, showing a cluster of gray dots moving toward the station's outer edge. Sareth's whole posture transformed instantly. The patient museum guide vanished, replaced by a combat commander. She tapped her wrist communicator. 4th Fleet, this is Commander Veer, report. A voice crackled back. Scout ship detected Sector 7, closing fast. I am on my way. Scramble all patrol units. Sareth looked at David and Lucy. I must go, now. Is it bad? Lucy asked, her voice smaller than before. Sareth knelt down to Lucy's eye level. It is my job. Do not worry. We train for this. She touched Lucy's shoulder gently. I promise I will finish our tour another time. Then she was gone, running toward the military wing with speed that no human could match. David grabbed Lucy's hand. Come on, we need to get to a shelter. They joined the flow of civilians heading for the reinforced sections of the station. Around them, people of various species moved with practiced efficiency. This was not the first alert, and everyone knew the procedures. In the shelter, Lucy sat close to David. She was trying to be brave, but he could feel her trembling. She'll be okay, David said. The Dravixen are trained for this. I know. But Dad, Lucy looked up at him. She's nice. I don't want her to get hurt. David realized with surprise that he agreed. Somewhere between the terrible blind date and the museum tour, Sareth had become a person to him. Not just a scary alien, a person who was risking her life right now to protect them. The alert lasted 2 hours. In the shelter, they listened to updates over the station speakers. The scout ship had been neutralized. No civilian casualties. Minimal damage to the outer hull. When the all-clear sounded, David took Lucy home. She was quiet, processing everything. Dad? She said as he tucked her into bed. Can I ask you something? Always. Why didn't you like Commander Sareth at first? David sighed. He had hoped she would not notice. I was scared of her, of what she was, but she's not scary. She's wonderful. I know that now. Do you think? Lucy hesitated. Do you think you could be friends with her? Real friends? David thought about Sareth's patience with Lucy's endless questions. The respect she had shown him after the surgery. The way she had knelt down to promise Lucy they would finish the tour. Maybe, he said. Would you like that? Yes, a lot, Lucy smiled. I think Mom would have liked her too. The words hit David in the chest. Rachel would have loved Sareth. She would have been fascinated by the cultural differences, eager to learn everything. She would have laughed at David's initial fear and dragged him to the museum herself. Yeah, David said quietly. I think she would have. Over the next week, something shifted in David's world. He checked the news feeds every day looking for updates on the Fourth Fleet. He found himself researching Dravixen customs in his spare time. When Private Keller came in for a follow-up appointment, David asked about his commander. She is well, Keller said through his wired jaw. Tough as stone, that one. Took out the scout ship herself, flew right at it. David felt relieved, which surprised him. Lucy's school project was a massive success. She presented to her entire class, showing pictures Sareth had sent her. Pictures of the homeworld, of warrior training, of community celebrations. Her teacher gave her the highest marks, but Lucy wanted more than good grades. She wanted to see Sareth again. Can we invite her to dinner? Lucy asked. Like at our house? To say thank you? I don't know if commanders eat dinner at random people's houses. We're not random. We're friends. Lucy said it with such certainty that David almost believed it. He sent Sareth a message trying to sound casual. She responded immediately. She would be honored to accept the invitation. David panicked for 3 days about what to cook. What did Dravixen eat? Could they digest human food? He finally asked Trill, who laughed at him for 10 minutes straight. Just make something you are good at, Trill advised. She is coming to see you and Lucy, not to judge your cooking. The night of the dinner, David changed his shirt twice. Lucy set the table with their best plates. She put out 3 forks, 3 knives, 3 napkins. A family dinner setting. When the door chimed, Lucy ran to answer it. Sareth stood in the hallway, wings folded neatly. She had brought flowers, strange silver blooms from her home world. For your home, she said, handing them to Lucy. They're beautiful. Lucy hugged them carefully. Come in. Dad made his special pasta, and there's bread, and we have 3 kinds of dessert because he couldn't decide. Sareth stepped inside, and suddenly their small apartment felt even smaller. But not in a bad way. Just different. They ate dinner together. Lucy talked about school. Sareth told stories about her training days. David found himself laughing, actually laughing, at a joke about a mishap during a military parade. After dinner, Lucy showed Sareth her room, her drawings, her collection of alien artifacts from the station market. Sareth admired everything with genuine interest. When it was Lucy's bedtime, she hugged Sareth without hesitation. Thank you for coming. You're my favorite person I've interviewed ever. You are my favorite interviewer, Sareth replied, her stern face soft. After Lucy was in bed, Sareth and David stood by the window, looking out at the stars. The silence between them was comfortable this time. Thank you, David said, for being so kind to her. She is easy to be kind to. She sees the world without fear. You raised her well. Her mother raised her well. I'm just trying not to ruin it. Sareth turned to look at him. You are doing better than you think, David Chen. They stood there for a moment longer. Then Sareth said she should go, and David walked her to the door. Same time next week? Sareth asked. David blinked. You want to come back? If the invitation stands. I enjoyed this evening. So did we. Yes. Next week. After she left, David went to check on Lucy. She was supposed to be asleep but cracked one eye open. "I told you she's wonderful," Lucy whispered. "You were right," David admitted. "I usually am." Lucy grinned. "Good night, Dad." "Good night, sweetheart." David went to his own room, but he did not sleep for a long time. He thought about Rachel, about grief, about the life they had planned together. Then he thought about a warrior with amber eyes who treated his daughter like she was precious, who had bowed her head in respect, who made him laugh for the first time in 2 years. Maybe, just maybe, life was not over. Maybe it was just different than planned. Maybe different could be good. Sarah became part of their routine over the next month. She came to dinner every week, sometimes twice. She taught Lucy basic self-defense moves in the station park, gentle techniques that focused on awareness and avoidance rather than violence. She helped with homework. She listened to David talk about difficult patients at the clinic. David found himself looking forward to her visits more than he wanted to admit. There was something grounding about her presence. She did not pretend that life was easy or that grief disappeared. She just existed alongside him, solid and real. One afternoon, Lucy came home from school with a bruised cheek and scraped knees. David was still at the clinic, so she went to Mrs. Patterson's apartment as usual. But Mrs. Patterson took one look at her and called David immediately. He left work early, heart pounding. When he got home, Lucy was sitting on the couch with an ice pack, trying not to cry. "What happened?" "Some older kids at school. They were picking on this little alien kid, one of the Tillo species. He's really small, and they were calling him names." Lucy's voice wobbled. "I told them to stop, and they pushed me. So I pushed back." David's protective instincts roared to life. "Did you get hurt anywhere else?" "No, just my face and knees." "But Dad, the Tillo kid, he was so scared." "He's only 6. They were going to take his lunch money." David pulled her into a hug. "I'm proud of you for standing up for him. But I'm also scared. Those kids are bigger than you, I know. But remember what Sarah said? Honor is about protecting people who can't protect themselves." I had to do something. Before David could respond, the door chime rang. Sarah stood outside, her face concerned. She must have seen the message he had sent, telling her he would miss their dinner plans tonight. "I heard Lucy was hurt. I came immediately." She stepped inside, her eyes scanning Lucy for injuries. "May I see?" Lucy showed her the bruises. Sarah examined them with a warrior's eye, checking for serious damage. Finding none, she sat down beside Lucy on the couch. "Tell me what happened, everything." Lucy explained the whole story. The bullies, the small Tillo child, her decision to intervene. Sarah listened without interrupting. When Lucy finished, Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she bowed her head slightly, wings fluttering once. "The honor recognition. You acted with true courage today," Sarah said. "You saw someone in need and did not look away. That is the mark of honor, Lucy Chen." Lucy's eyes went wide. "Really?" "Really. In my culture, we would celebrate this. You stood against those stronger than you to protect the weak. That is what warriors do. But I'm not a warrior. I'm just a kid. Warriors are not born. They are made by the choices they face." Sarah placed a gentle clawed hand on Lucy's shoulder. "You chose correctly." David watched them, his throat tight. He had been ready to call the school, to demand action against the bullies. But Sarah had done something better. She had given Lucy's choice meaning and honor. "However," Sarah continued, her tone shifting, "courage without skill is dangerous. You could have been hurt worse. The next time you face such a situation, you need to know how to protect yourself properly." "Will you teach me?" Lucy asked eagerly. "If your father permits it." They both looked at David. He thought about saying no. Keeping Lucy safe meant keeping her away from fights, didn't it? But then he remembered her words. She had to do something, and he could not protect her from the whole galaxy. "Yes," he said. "Teacher." So began Lucy's training. Sarah came 3 times a week, taking her to the park or the station gym. She taught Lucy how to stand, how to be aware of her surroundings, how to avoid fights when possible. And when avoidance was not possible, how to protect herself. David often watched from a distance. He saw his daughter grow more confident, her movements more sure. But more importantly, he saw the bond forming between Lucy and Sarah. The warrior treated his daughter like she was precious, like she mattered. One evening, after a training session, Sarah stayed for dinner. Lucy fell asleep on the couch afterward, exhausted. David covered her with a blanket while Sareth cleaned up the kitchen. "You don't have to do that," David said. "I know, but I want to." Sareth dried a plate carefully. "David, may I say something personal?" His heart beat faster. "Of course, then I lost my family in the war. Parents, siblings, everyone. For 17 years I had nothing but duty. The military gave me purpose, but not connection." She set the plate down, turned to face him. "These past weeks with you and Lucy, I have felt something I thought was gone forever. I have felt like I belong somewhere." David's breath caught. "We feel the same way. You've been good for us, for both of us." "I am glad." Sareth smiled, a rare expression that transformed her face. "I value what we have built here." They stood close in the small kitchen. David was very aware of the height difference, of her wings folded against her back, of the way the light caught her scales. He was also aware of how safe he felt near her, how understood. "Sareth," he began, then stopped. What was he trying to say? She waited patiently. "I was terrified of you," he finally said. "That first night. I thought you were this dangerous, scary thing. I couldn't see past what you looked like. And now? Now I see you. Not a Dravixen. Not a soldier, just you. And you're—" He searched for the right word. "You're wonderful." Lucy was right all along. Sareth's amber eyes widened slightly. Then she stepped closer, moving carefully, giving him time to back away. He didn't. She reached out and touched his face with one clawed hand so gentle. "You are braver than you think, David Chen. It takes courage to let someone in after loss." "I'm not brave. I'm just trying. That is all any of us can do." They stayed like that for a moment. In the quiet kitchen, something unspoken but understood passing between them. The next morning, David's comm unit buzzed. It was the school. The older kids who had bullied Lucy had been disciplined, but there was concern about ongoing tensions. Would David like to come in for a meeting? He went during his lunch break. The principal, a being with blue fur and 3 eyes, explained the situation. The bullies' parents were upset that their children had been suspended. They claimed Lucy had started the fight. "That's not true," David said firmly. "Lucy was defending another student." "We believe you, Dr. Chen, but these parents are influential in the station community. They want consequences for Lucy as well." David felt his temper rising. "So you want to punish her for doing the right thing?" "We want to find a peaceful resolution." David left the meeting angry and frustrated. He went straight to Sareth's office in the military wing, something he had never done before. She looked surprised to see him but immediately cleared the room of other officers. "What is wrong?" He explained the situation. Sareth's expression grew darker with every word. "This is not acceptable," she said when he finished. "Lucy acted with honor. She should be celebrated, not punished. Tell that to the school." "I will. May I accompany you to the next meeting?" David blinked. "You'd do that?" "Of course. Lucy is—" Sareth paused, choosing her words carefully. "She is important to me. As are you. I will not stand by while she is treated unjustly." The next meeting was very different. David brought Sareth in her full military uniform, medals gleaming. The principal's 3 eyes widened. The bully parents looked nervous. Sareth spoke with the calm authority of someone used to commanding soldiers. She explained the Dravixen concept of honor, of protecting the weak. She pointed out that Lucy's actions aligned with the station's own anti-bullying policies. She suggested that perhaps the parents should teach their children about courage, rather than complaining about consequences. The meeting ended with apologies to Lucy. No punishment would be filed. The principal promised to implement better supervision during lunch periods. Walking back through the station corridors, David felt like a weight had been lifted. "Thank you," he said to Sareth. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. Lucy deserved someone to stand for her just as she stood for that small child." David stopped walking. Sareth turned to look at him, questioning. "I need to tell you something," David said. "I'm falling for you. I don't know when it started. Maybe at dinner, or watching you with Lucy, or just now seeing you defend her like she was your own. But it's happening, and I think you should know." Sareth was very still. Then she stepped forward, closing the distance between them. People walked past in the corridor, various species going about their business. None of them paid attention to the human and the Dravixen standing too close. "I am falling for you as well," Sareth said quietly. "Both of you. You have become my family, David Chen, and I do not wish to lose that." You won't. If I have any say in it, you won't. They walked home together, hands almost touching but not quite. Some boundaries needed to be approached slowly, carefully, but they both knew where this was heading, and neither of them was afraid anymore. 3 months passed in comfortable routine. Sareth spent more time at their apartment than her own quarters. She had a drawer in David's dresser now. Lucy called her Aunt Sareth, and then just Sareth, and then, one day, something that sounded close to Mom, but not quite. Nobody corrected her. David had never been happier, which scared him sometimes. Happiness felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. It did shatter, but not the way he expected. The attack came at night. David was asleep when the alarms blared. Not the warning alarms from before. These were different, louder, more urgent. His comm unit screamed to life. Automated voice. Emergency. All civilians to designated shelters. This is not a drill. Swarm breach detected. Multiple sectors. David's blood went cold. He ran to Lucy's room. She was already awake, frightened. Dad, shelter. Now. Grab your emergency bag. He tried to keep his voice calm. They ran into the corridor. Chaos everywhere, people screaming, lights flickering. In the distance, David heard something that sounded like tearing metal. The swarm had broken through the station hull. They made it to the nearest shelter, a reinforced section near the medical wing. Dozens of people crowded inside, multiple species all pressed together in fear. The doors sealed with a heavy thunk. David held Lucy close. She was shaking. Around them, parents did the same with their children. A Tillo family huddled nearby, the father's fur standing on end with terror. "Where's Sareth?" Lucy whispered. "Fighting. She's doing her job. She'll be okay, right?" David wanted to lie, wanted to promise everything would be fine. But he had never lied to Lucy before, and he would not start now. "I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so." The shelter shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Someone screamed. David tightened his grip on Lucy. Hours crawled past. The station's speakers gave occasional updates. The swarm had breached in 3 locations. 4th Fleet was engaged. Civilian casualties unknown. David's comm unit buzzed. A message from the clinic. Medical emergency. Wounded incoming. Need all staff immediately. He looked at Lucy, torn. She saw the conflict in his face. "You should go," she said, trying to be brave. "People need doctors. I can't leave you." The Tillo father nearby spoke up, his translator crackling. "I will watch her. You go. Save lives." David looked at the family. The mother held 2 small children. The father's eyes were sincere. In crisis, species did not matter. They were all just people trying to survive. "Thank you." David kissed Lucy's forehead. "I'll come back. I promise." "I know. Go help people." David ran through the corridors following the emergency lights. The medical wing had transformed into a war zone. Wounded everywhere, multiple species, some bleeding colors David had never seen before. Trill was already working, all 4 arms busy. "David, here!" she shouted. He dove into the work. Training took over. Stabilize the worst injuries first. Stop the bleeding. Keep them breathing. Don't think about the sounds. Don't think about the fear. Just work. A Dravixan soldier was brought in, her wing torn almost completely off. David recognized her, one of Sareth's squadron. He worked on her for 30 minutes, reattaching what he could, knowing she would never fly combat missions again, but determined to save her life. Another soldier. Another. Humans, aliens, all of them bleeding and broken. Then someone said Sareth's name. David's hands froze. He looked up. A young officer stood there, scales blackened with burns. Commander Veer. She went after the main swarm cluster alone, drew them away from the civilian sectors. She's still out there. David felt the world tilt. Is she alive? Unknown. Lost contact 10 minutes ago. He wanted to run, wanted to steal a shuttle and go find her. But wounded people surrounded him, and his hands were covered in someone else's blood. He had to choose. Duty or love. He chose duty because that was what Sareth would have done. He kept working. 3 more hours. The battle finally turned. Human reinforcements arrived from a nearby station. The swarm retreated. The all-clear sounded. 42 dead. Hundreds wounded. Parts of the station would take months to repair. David scrubbed blood from his hands and ran to the shelter. Lucy threw herself into his arms, sobbing. He held her, checking for injuries, finding none. "Sareth?" she asked. "I don't know yet." They went to the military wing. Soldiers filled the corridors, exhausted and battered. David asked everyone he saw. No one knew where Sareth was. Finally, someone pointed to the observation deck. "Commander is up there, alone." David's heart leaped. She was alive. He left Lucy with a trusted nurse and ran up the stairs. Sareth stood at the window, staring out at space. Her uniform was torn. Burns marked her scales. One wing was bandaged. But she was alive. Sareth. She turned. When she saw him, something in her face broke. He had never seen her cry before. Did not know Dravixen could cry. But tears slid down her scales as she crossed the distance between them. They held each other without words. David felt her trembling, the adrenaline and fear finally catching up. He held her tighter. "I thought I lost you," he whispered. "I thought I would not make it back. There were so many. I kept fighting because..." She pulled back to look at him. "Because I wanted to see you again. Both of you. I had something to come home to. You're here now, that's what matters." "I killed them, David, so many. I can still smell the burning, I can still hear." She stopped, shaking. "You protected us, you saved lives, that's what you do. Is it enough? Is killing ever enough?" David thought about the wounded he had treated. The Dravixen soldier who would never fly again but would live. The small Tillo child whose father had watched Lucy. All the lives saved because Sareth and her squadron had fought. "Yes," he said firmly. "It's enough. You did what had to be done." They stood together as the sun rose over the station's curve, painting the stars pink and gold. Slowly, Sareth's trembling stopped. "I want to resign my commission," she said suddenly. David blinked. "What?" "I have served for 20 years. I have done my duty. But I want..." She looked at him with those amber eyes. "I want a life. With you and Lucy, if you will have me." "Are you sure? The military is everything to you." "No, it was everything. Now I have found something more important." She touched his face. "I have found home." David kissed her then, not caring who might see. She kissed back, gentle despite her sharp teeth, careful despite her strength. When they pulled apart, Lucy was standing in the doorway, grinning. "I knew it," she shouted. "I told you she was wonderful." Sareth laughed, a sound David had rarely heard. She opened her arms and Lucy ran into them. Sareth lifted her easily, spinning her once. "You are right, small one. I am wonderful." "And modest," David added. "That too." They went home together, all 3 of them. The apartment felt different now. Fuller. Right. Over the next weeks, Sareth formally resigned from the military. She was given a ceremony with full honors. David and Lucy attended, watching proudly as medals were pinned to her chest and speeches were made about her service. She took a position as a combat instructor for station security. Teaching, not fighting. Protecting without war, David expanded his clinic to offer specialized care for trauma survivors. Word spread. Species from across the station came to see the human dentist who had saved lives during the attack. Lucy's school created a new program about honor and courage. They asked her to speak at the first assembly. She stood in front of hundreds of students and told them about defending the weak, about choosing bravery over fear, about how differences should be celebrated, not feared. 6 months after the attack, David and Sareth were officially married in a ceremony that blended human and Dravixen traditions. Lucy stood between them, holding both their hands. The officiant, a wise elderly being with more tentacles than David could count, spoke about the strength of bonds that cross species, about families built on choice rather than blood, about love that overcomes fear. When it was over and they walked through the station as a family, people stopped to congratulate them. Humans, Dravixen, Tillo, dozens of species, all living together, learning from each other. That night, after Lucy was asleep, David and Sarah stood at their window watching the stars. "Do you ever regret it?" David asked. "Leaving the military? Your old life?" Sarah looked at him, then at the closed door to Lucy's room. "Never. This is where I belong. I'm glad, because I don't know what we'd do without you now." "You would survive. Humans always do. That is your gift. You adapt. You build bridges. You see past differences to the person beneath." She leaned her head against his. "That is why humanity will always have a place among the stars. Not because you are the strongest or the smartest, but because you know how to make a family out of strangers." David thought about that, about his first dinner with Sarah when he had wanted to run away, about Lucy saying she's wonderful when he could only see a scary alien, about wounded soldiers of all species bleeding the same colors, about a battle fought side by side, protecting each other regardless of what they looked like. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe we just know that being alone is worse than being different. Perhaps both are true." They stood together in comfortable silence. Two beings from different worlds united by choice and love, and a 7-year-old girl who had seen the truth before anyone else. In her room, Lucy slept peacefully, dreaming of wings and stars and a family that proved love had no limits. She smiled in her sleep, content and safe. She had been right all along. Sarah was wonderful, and now she was theirs forever.